reality, who were capable of hijacking fragments from their crystalline states and creating composite new realities, hyper-realities. Redcon also consisted of comics and crossovers and fan fiction, meaning it contains literally all forms of comical production within DC. Now, under Redcon, you have certain people who have roles like Lord Mangaka. Basically, this dude who acts like a middleman between the wholesaler, which is Redcon Corp, and Mr. Nebula, who wanted to buy Prime Earth from of DC Comics. And then you have the bargainer slash planner, who basically acts like a middleman to meet several demands to be it buying or reproducing something or getting something important. He's in charge of keeping things running like a manager. Then you have you have God of Superheroes. The first God of Superheroes is the Chad himself, known as Redcon or Al. He is the master of all real and imagination, a beacon of both hope and omnipotence. But it turned out that he had a weakness that could get him killed from a talking brick being used to hit him. And then this dude who used to be named Hazalon, he was a toy which was making a lot of money for Redcon, but his green bulb was affecting the kids on a cosmic scale. He's now the god of heroes, but he has statements which will play a similar role to Redcon. Like being the master of dreams, literally being referred to as God, had power to send Jane into her thoughts. Jane is pretty impressive. She could even get hold of that same brick. Now, the purpose of Redcon is basically to create entertainment for these beings called the Eonyimus, which are these beings that fictionally transcend the Overvoid and final heaven. They also create stories of characters in iterations from these hyper-reality shards, which the characters can take shape from literally anything. As you can see, Rita Farr took shape from a lamb. They literally view the DC verse as pretty much not really significant, and this is actually very impressive when you realize that of course everything is on the Overvoid, and there are infinite creations as of now on the Overvoid. Some say Final Heaven is the coffee stain, but that's utterly wrong, because with that logic, wherever the coffee stain is would be Final Heaven. And we have seen two placements, as you can see in the scans, which is on the map and on the Overvoid. And to even make it worse, the Eonyimus literally we're already watching things about DC, so how can they be watching things about DC and then the coffee stain will be Final Heaven, when Final Heaven is to create things for them? Did you get what I'm saying? Right. And Final Heaven is actually inside the Overvoid itself. And what do I mean by this? Now, we will be reaching other aspects of the scaling, including Doom Patrol, but just limited to these issues and the man of the day, which is Milkman. Now, the Doom Patrol have actually shown feats a lot of times to be on the Overvoid tier, too many times, and they did it even better once again. Terry Nunn and Casey Brink had a baby, and as they was driving, the birth of that child took them literally through the Overvoid, and they landed in Final Heaven. This baby would later be packaged in a rocket and sent to Earth, to Happy Harbor, where he lived with, oh man, I don't feel like saying his name. Now, Milkman is supposed to be this agent for keeping the narrative moving via the milk, this mind-controlling milk. You can tell any story, create any world, combining words and pictures, aka graphic novels. Young Animal Comics consist of writers, creators, editors, and artists, and all this is coming from within that milk. And who is the person we see outside that milk? That's Terry Nunn, which shows just how overpowered these Doom Patrol are. I will still mention more of them. But we basically know that this milk controls forcefully, and the reason that child was born was to become the new god of superheroes, which he did, and that's why the other dude wanted to end all things by stopping the broadcast of events from the Overvoid to the bleed so that the Eonyimus would just destroy everything. Now you guys should pay detailed attention here. They say that they have the schematics of the all-chatty god of superheroes who himself had power to had power of justice itself, which is something Batman actually embodies now. But that's for next year. He was able to create disruptions and differences which birthed three timeless ideas. They did state it, but I am assuming this is the time stream, hypertime, and higher dimensional time that gods use, like the square time thing, but don't take this seriously per se. But they did further say the three ideas homogenize Earth Prime with their milk, which basically means that they separated Earth Prime as something that isn't really needed. And this is weird since we know Earth Prime is the basis of DC in a way, but really shows they are supreme. But the main purpose still won't be changed, and that's DC. So you can get rid of Earth Prime, but you can still make Earth Prime not the basis as DC still remains DC. Check the term of homogenize and follow the narrative, then you will see the importance of that explanation. As I was saying, there is a lineage of justice, an evolutionary tree leading back to Al, the god of superheroes. Ideas branch off from the tree, permutation expressed as mathematical formulas in which Batman and Wonder Woman are also very important. And with the right adjustment to their formula, it is easy to alter and broaden their appeal. Superman's was harder because his was a direct link from the god of superheroes, as explained earlier, which he was born to replace. They couldn't adjust his formula, and then they branded theirs and fired him to Earth, which he started controlling people by their orders. Now, there are two things that pop up here, and this occurs in several mythological lines. This follows the archetypal aspect of possibly Carl Jung, whereas there's a tree of archetypal nature. But yet, this isn't really Jung stuff, but still Plato's, as that's what DC is built around. You see, they still refer to mathematical expressions such as permutations, which deals with hierarchy of infinite or finite transcendences. And from the cosmology, I would say this is an aleph transcendence to all below it, even just by scaling from things before you get to final heaven. And yes, even all the way up to final heaven, they still make use of the tree of life, which DC has, and the top actually is heaven. The downplayers out there that might try to then compare Swamp Thing, Presence, and Animal Man to this because of the Yggdrasil in DC, which stretches across the three imaginal realms. And we do know that Plato borrowed Carl Jung's ideology, but still uses Platonism, which is what we know as Platonic Archetypes. And that's what DC is built around. And also, that's the basis for the story of Superman. I don't want to go further and start ruining my Superman video and DC Cosmology video for next year, but just know this is Platonic Archetypes and has been stated or shown severally in DC, as you can see in the scans. Now, sometimes things don't even have to be exactly stated. Once you understand the lore and where the writers are getting this lore from, sometimes they even use the exact lore, then you know. And yeah, for Platonism, for Platonic archetypes, is better stated because Platonic archetypes is not something you easily just find. You have to read about Platonism before you actually see his linkage and how he borrowed Carl Jung's archetype. Milkman Superman represents the story of Superman on the highest scale possible. He may not be the true Clark, but his essence doesn't change the concept of Superman's archetypal nature to DC's build-up. Also, it is important to know that Redcon didn't wipe the Overvoid clean. I don't know where people get that from. They literally was going to wipe the narratives off of the Overvoid. And Milkman isn't created from the Overvoid. And what do I mean by this? Yes, it is implied or shown that they tried to change Superman with the milk, but nothing was ever stated that they created Milkman from the Overvoid, as he was born, and it was all part of their branding to make a new god of heroes. The milk itself does actually come from the Overvoid, only because we don't know where else it came from, except from this scan where we see Rita Farr. in the Overvoid, and she's literally linked to creation in the Overvoid as Milk itself. She seems to be abnormally overpowered severally as usual. And we see how they are wiping stories off of the Overvoid, but because Rita Farr was in the Overvoid, just like how you need to get almost to the edge of the Overvoid to literally get to Redcon Corp, Final Heaven. She survived because she was in the Overvoid. And Flex Mentalo is just a beast. He literally negated the Redcon effects by flexing and amping everyone. Note that they was the same people to amp everyone to get to Final Heaven, and Rita Farr killed the previous god of superheroes, who killed Redcon himself, or Owl. But yet, Milkman was literally retconning their existence by literally existing in this scan here from their dreams. And we do know that dream is reality that isn't a reality. In fact, dream is beyond realities. Watch my endless video. I could go on, but I have touched down every important thing. This is literally almost beyond the Overvoid tier, but they are the same tier as the Overvoid, but just a bit lower. This is infinite into high ultraversal, which is still an inaccessible gap from literally Brahma, Pralaya, and the World Tree itself of DC. People like Hecate and the Presence. In fact, the Presence is far from this. Milkman is high into high ultraversal. And also, for those who like to claim that the authors are all on the tier of the final heaven, well, that's relatively true and false at the same time. And this is referring to the part where I was talking about the Milk, about creating worlds, pages, and whatever, as you can see in the skies. This is just for like Young Animal, and Young Animal is those like the people who actually do that, is linked to Vertigo and do that for Doom Patrol. And yeah, Doom Patrol really overpowered. This just basically saying that fictional aspects of the writers can scale to the level of Final Heaven. And we have seen that writers actually have tiers, that it just depends on who is writing at that point. We've seen Grant Morrison on the Limbo tier in Animal Man. We have seen the Gentry kill an author. We have seen Greg Feely, who is arguably the most powerful individual character in DC, at the level of the Croc. So making such an argument is very retarded, to be honest, and it makes no logical sense to just make such blanket assumption that all the authors scale on this tier. Yes, an author can put a character, his fictional character, on that tier, but authors have also put their fictional characters on lower tiers. So you trying to appeal to reality by using a real life version of someone into a comic, right, doesn't make sense when there's already hierarchy of dimensionality, which itself is a false equivalence and a contradiction. So please don't ever try using that argument. Use that kind of thing against me, I'll just trash it immediately. Other than that, I really hope you guys enjoyed. This video is short. From now, my videos are not going to be so long. I'm going to be going straight to the point. And yeah, that next week I'll be doing a video versus matchup, either the Chronicler versus Lucifer or the Phoenix Force versus Lucifer. So tune in, subscribe, and see you next